Whoever you are, however quixotic your questions, however atavistic your answers, hello. I read somewhere, or heard somewhere, that only a very few podcasts get past their third episode, and only about 1% of all podcasts make it to episode 20. So, hurrah! Though that's only really a good thing if these podcasts are a good thing, which is doubtful. Anyway, today I'm going to be thinking about the possibility that some intelligence exists beyond us here on Earth, perhaps intervening with our lives in some way, or visiting us personally. That's right, I'm talking about aliens. About aliens. The last few podcasts covered belief, religion, and atheism, and somewhere along the line it occurred to me that those who believe in extraterrestrials visiting Earth and potentially abducting people are not always religious. And those that believe that God works in mysterious ways or communicates revelations to individuals from time to time don't always believe in aliens. So today I'm going to be running these two ideas through the gauntlet of our prior assumptions. What we might expect if either of these propositions are true. Maybe the evidence for alien visitors and divine overseers might constructively interfere with each other, bolstering both cases. Or maybe they cancel each other out, and both look implausible for the same reason. Let's pull these ideas apart by smushing them together. The idea that Earth has been visited by extraterrestrials is not impossible. Let's start there. We know, for a fact, that life could exist on other planets purely because it exists here. Intelligent aliens could be supposed to exist for the same reason. Aliens could even be more intelligent than us, because there's no reason to think that we humans have the greatest natural intellect possible. It's also plausible that super smart aliens might want to visit other worlds beyond their own solar system. We Earthlings certainly would. Obviously, the likelihood of all of these propositions gets smaller with each step. But as long as the laws of physics remain intact, the probability never drops completely to zero. So for the sake of this conversation, let's just grant those three conditions. If so, what might we expect aliens to do once they arrive here? Having come all that way, it seems reasonable to think that they would be unabashedly conspicuous on arrival. I doubt that humanity, our technology, our weapons, or even our microbes would pose any threat to a civilization capable of interstellar travel. Their technological superiority would likely have them rock up like the aliens in Arrival, Independence Day, or Mars Attacks. The idea that they'd only get spotted in very remote places, only abduct disreputable individuals, and only leave patterns in flattened crops as an indication that they were here at all, seems to contradict what we already know about them. That they're smart. If we assume instead that these alien tourists would want to remain hidden from us, that goal should be perfectly achievable considering what we already know about them. They have the technological prowess to hop between star systems. If you can pull off that kind of technological wizardry, then staying undetected by the primitive locals should be a complete doddle. There would be no chance glimpses through shaky footage or mysterious lights in the sky. E.T., Max from Flight of the Navigator, and the creature in Nope should be ashamed of themselves. For these reasons, what distinguishes UFO enthusiasts from the rest of us probably boils down to how we assign probabilities to unlikely events. Generally speaking, individuals employ their knowledge, experience, and beliefs to assess the likelihood of a claim. From these prior probabilities, or just priors, we can and should update our credence as new information comes to light. So before we consider any anecdotes or conspiracy theories, how confident can we be, a priori, that advanced extraterrestrials have ever dropped by? Unfortunately, there is no right answer to this question and no logical way to get people to agree. Everyone is entitled to their own priors. I, for one, would assign a very low probability to this scenario. Two reasons warp to mind. First, as I've just mentioned, it feels rather implausible that aliens would set off from their homeworld thousands of years ago to arrive just in time for humanity to become technologically advanced, and then attempt but fail to hide from us. My second objection is that the alternative hypothesis, that aliens haven't visited us, makes more sense of the data available. Ask yourself, how likely is it that people would routinely report UFO sightings, share abduction stories, and wave grainy photographs about if aliens didn't exist and haven't visited us? Almost certain, I suspect. Without a doubt, we all experience strange and inexplicable things from time to time, things that defy categorization and ignite the imagination. Mysterious phenomena are no reason to believe that alien activity is ever a worthy explanation. Now, the same mindset, I think, can be applied to acts of God. Before we consider any specific evidence for a deity's existence, we should ask, what would we expect to see if God were real? For example, if an infinitely powerful, perfectly loving, conscious, creative intelligence really permeated the fabric of the universe, wouldn't it be incontestably obvious to everyone, all of the time? That's where my money would be. Just as with super-intelligent aliens, there's an argument to be made that any god who'd concern himself with human affairs would do so quite blatantly. We'd not expect him to hide from us by default, nor try to hide while scattering subtle hints of his existence around the world for us to interpret. No one could predict in advance that he'd be difficult to discern, allowing people to abuse each other over his name, nature, rules, involvement, or plan. Instead, it would be trivial for a god to play an active and unveiled role in all of our lives without any divisive uncertainty. Now let's consider the alternative. Would we expect folk to witness miracles, spread creation stories, infer divine agency, and claim personal revelations if no God existed? This, again, to me seems very likely given what we know and love about people. Scrutinizing our priors is vital when justifications are easy to invent after the fact. You can try this for yourself. Say I lost my wallet temporarily and then found it again. It happens. Now, I blame aliens for the sudden removal and curious reappearance of my stuff. So you, understandably, ask why on earth aliens would do that. What could possibly motivate them to mess with me in that way? Think up an answer. Have a go. Get creative. Inventing stories to explain the mysterious behavior of vastly superior minds is effortless. No matter how fanciful, you can't prove that that's not what the aliens intended to do. But we shouldn't assume a hypothesis to be correct just because it's unfalsifiable. It's often been said that the invisible and the non-existent look very much alike. A belief that justifies anything explains nothing. Appeals to alien activity or God's intervention are unlimited in scope and impossible to negate, so they can't further our understanding in any way. A stronger hypothesis would predict ahead of time when and where aliens will abduct things, or when and to whom miracles will be gifted. We could then update our confidence based on what we observe. Until explanations give us new, repeatable predictions, tales of close encounters with gods or extraterrestrials look more like figments than facts. And there's another complication waiting for us. This one is about specificity. As long as we're waiting for a deity to unveil itself and spill the existential beans, the word God will continue to mean different things to different people. As we've already covered in previous episodes, a deistic God simply brings the universe into existence and contributes little else. He doesn't mind if you use naughty words or toil on the Sabbath. God could also refer to the sum total of everything. Planets, pelicans, photons, and pornography each contribute their fraction to his holistic totality. This is the pantheistic God, and in this view, God is truly everywhere, but cares about as much for individuals as you do about your own individual atoms. This is why a hypothesis needs to be specific. Multiple, non-exclusive, well-reasoned arguments can be used with equal clout to support many definitions of what God is. Most apologetic arguments only bolster the concept of a God, not his purported characteristics. All these vague concepts of God are believable in that there's nothing fundamentally undeniable about them, but there's nothing remotely testable about them either. So before we attempt to assign any probabilities to the existence of God, we ought to spell out precisely what we mean by God. And this presents something of a double-edged sword. You see, the more specific a god's attributes are claimed to be, the more people will disagree with each other. From here, critical thinking and logical deductions are all that we need to pit versions of God against one another. If one thing is true, what else must be true as a result? A theistic-shaped God, for example, would know that we humans can't prove his existence for certain. This God could remove the confusion, as we've discussed, while still presenting each of us with innumerable obstacles in life. Ethical dilemmas, inner struggles, turbulent relationships, and so on. How well we perform in this short mortal life could still determine our eternal fate, if that's what he wants. A monotheistic, moralistic, judgment-focused theology, like Christianity, therefore must require God's infuriating hiddenness. There must be a reason why God hasn't shown up to sweep away the confusion. According to Christian mythology, the character of Satan never doubted God's existence before falling from grace. He knew for a fact that God existed and was still able to turn his back, fall short of God's expectations, and wind up on the naughty list. So we ourselves could be born directly into a relationship with God, no uncertainty required, without surrendering our free will or avoiding divine judgment. It also follows that our redemption doesn't hinge on acting morally. Many different religions throughout history have taught very similar moral rules, and even atheists can be good people. Yet many religions, including Christianity, expect that only their own devout followers have a shot at reaching heaven. So the gods of each of those particular faiths must, logically, value becoming a follower more than any moral choice that we make. Why would accepting a particular doctrine be more important to a god than, say, reasoned morality? As the majority of faithful believers follow the religion of their parents, babies born into the wrong family must start with a formidable disadvantage. For religious thinkers, it's a problematic fact that being born in America would make you much more likely to be a Christian than if you were born in India, say. That doesn't seem particularly fair when your salvation is at stake. But even when you are backing the right God, his choice to remain debatable makes a two-way relationship quite difficult. Between God and me, he's the only one who's sure that we both exist. And he alone knows what it would take to convince me that he exists. He's known for around 13.8 billion years exactly how my life would pan out, including any future conversion, if that's what my life has in store. So why is it my responsibility to reach out and make the first move? Imagine you wanted something from me, a friendship, say, or an apology, or something, and I was fast asleep, dreaming my secular dreams. It would be quite unreasonable to expect me to wake myself up for you, even if doing so was in my best interest. The power and obligation to rouse me would be exclusively yours. Human biology, psychology, the laws of nature, and the behaviour of social systems are universal truths, irrespective of a person's culture or beliefs. They are transcendent in this respect. One of the most uniquely human qualities is our ability to be conscious of ourselves, to have thoughts about our thoughts. I'm in a very jolly mood today. Why is that? This self-awareness is a blessing in that it allows us to recognize other individuals as different from us, but similar enough to spark a deep empathetic connection. However, it's also a curse, as self-awareness makes us ultra-critical of our imperfections and distrustful of those who deviate from the social norm. With this predicament in mind, let's abandon the search for God for a moment. What if we focused our efforts on coping with those transcendent features of human existence directly? What if we tried to accept human biology, psychology, the laws of nature, and the behaviour of social systems, rather than trying to conquer them? Could we do this without getting sidetracked by mythology, scripture, the lure of paradise, or fears of damnation? Might that be a worthy goal? From empirical facts alone, we can develop robust ethical practices and moral guidelines. These would be centered around justice, compassion, cooperation, and honesty for their own sake, rather than divine command or promises of reward or punishment in another life. Because humans are imperfect reasoners, we should expect this kind of godless morality to begin horribly at first, and then improve over time. Oddly, starting off abysmal and advancing gradually through cultural trial and error is exactly what you'd predict moral progress to look like if God was never behind the wheel to begin with. If we use demonstrable features of the world to drive human flourishing, we're also more likely to cater for our emotional need of repentance, forgiveness, gratitude, and mercy much more effectively. These are things that have evolved alongside us since reciprocal altruism first emerged in our animal ancestors. Of course, we might, and surely will, get our facts and convictions wrong from time to time. We can hold false beliefs about what will be good for us in the long run, but attempting to purge unpopular human traits from the system has always made societies more dysfunctional, fragile, and generally worse for everyone. Even if you turn out to be the most selfish, hedonistic, narcissistic person on the planet, your goals can't be pursued in isolation. All of human desires entail a backdrop of tight social interactions, neighbourly exchanges, business relationships, community values, and political stability. Exactly the same is true if living compassionately and selflessly is what brings you joy. It would be difficult, if not impossible, to live any kind of satisfying life without holding a single false belief about yourself or the world. That just seems to be setting the bar too high. Instead, a more reasonable goal lies in getting maximum satisfaction out of minimal false beliefs. Keeping false beliefs low entails constant self-reflection, reasonable priors, and a hair-trigger skepticism. Perhaps it's to promote these tenets and all the bountiful treasures that they have in store for us that's motivating God to keep quiet while he discreetly swats the aliens away. You might have noticed that I'm dancing around Christianity a lot with these last few episodes. It's very dear to my heart. So next, I'm going to take a deeper look at Christianity and the Bible. Bite the bull, take the bullet by the horns, and stop beating around the burning bush. What could go wrong?